Muses are known for randomly inspiring artists and influencing their work, be it a lover's broken heart or women of enchanting beauty who might roam the forest, to simply a servant girl with an exquisite pearl earring. But that's not always the case. A muse can be something more than just a person. It can be an experience, or an object, or anything that might influence our work. Something that we can go to when we have writer's block, or use when we're tired and bored to help reignite that fire that once kindled our creative flame. Inspiration can be something as personal as a lived experience like a broken heart or a broken home, to watching a movie and getting excited to write that pirate novel you've been putting off. You know the feeling, when you're suddenly inspired to write like never before. That eureka moment when you can't stop the storm and have to race to put everything down on paper before you lose it. That itch to capture every moment, every detail before it escapes like embers from the smoke. So I ask you, what sparked your ideas? What gives you inspiration? What feeds that creative streak you're fighting to control but twists you at every new turn to traverse down a different path? In this video, I'm going to be breaking down what a muse is, why it is important, and how you might be able to find yours.
There's an old town road with mystery of Tom the poet and his muse, and a magic lake which gave a life to the words the poet used.
Refuse I. This is only the beginning of my true resurrection.
Arriving on a nightmare, praying for a dream.
True resurrection.
Inspiration may be the act of inspiring, but a muse will be the tool used to bring up said inspiration in that act of musing. You might wonder about that pirate novel for years, but upon watching Pirates of the Caribbean, you're suddenly excited to tell your story better, bolder, and bigger than anything Disney can pull off. You're thinking about your favorite fairy tale when you get this sudden urge while watching it on Disney+. What if Cinderella's stepsister had a chance to be evil, to tell her story? Or if that Wizard of Oz was actually a bad guy in an alternate universe? Or maybe you like to listen to music. You put together a playlist for your writing and listen comparatively using a specific song per scene to help set the mood. I'd say a prime example of the muse and drawing inspiration would be fanfiction, especially shippers. Sure, obsession might be the key element here, but haven't muses in the past been depicted as obsessions in and of themselves? There's something about wanting to take what we love, twist and turn it for ourselves. We not only feel closer, but it helps us feel we are not only further immortalizing the work, but immortalizing how we feel about the original work and how it inspired us in the moment. Obsession can go a long way to inspire different works. Sometimes the inspired reworking of a fan fave is motivating enough for many writers to start out and find their own passions in the writing industry.
I'm in love with an angel, heaven forbid. Make me a believer with the touch of her skin.
Muses aren't limited to being objects of affection for artistic stalkers to entertain their personal delusions. Muses are sort of the source for our inspiration. They are the object or subject with which we have imprinted on to find our own ideas and use to help manifest them to fruition. We most likely associate the muse with classical artists and poets because, well, it's possible it was a term more commonly used for artists to admit imprinting on a person merely for the sake of a future work and not because they were secretly fucking in their neighbor's orchard for the third time in a week. Honestly, I'd say even Hollywood is skeptical given the number of movies created to poke fun at the idea of things like obsession and infatuation in those times being appraised as love or affection in a time where expressing such feelings was not only deemed highly controversial, but had heavy consequences and the stakes were constantly raised.
Unbutton your blouse.
And it would be all too condemning to an individual's reputation if taken too far.
To what do you owe your success?
I exercise control in all things, Miss Steele.
Because I'm 50 shades of fucked up.
An obsession certainly is the fuel to feed the fire of that creative emblem that is the elusive muse. It comes and goes as if it never existed. It is fleeting, and you might have mere moments to capture and immortalize that said inspiration, some having to work through the whole night before the fire dims to nothing and it is lost forever. The muse might be the tool we use, but most are unaware it is our feelings, our passions we are trying to immortalize, not just the work itself, whether on paper, canvas, instrument, or video. Dante is believed to have used a woman named Beatrice as his muse, even though they were never involved. The same is considered by Kierkegaard, and the woman he had as a muse being rather inclined to glorify that woman into practically being a goddess. Socrates used to say he had a divine something, or a sign, or a voice to warn him against making mistakes. And Joan of Arc also claimed the same thing, though she was a bit controversial in whether or not she was crazy, inspired, or really did hear the voice of God. It became her obsession, and her passions led her to believe she could carry a war and lead others to fight for their freedoms. Artists that once painted muses have been more so replaced with photographers using the same tools to express their feelings of passion and creativity through Photoshop or on Instagram. Their obsession with their art and seeing the beauty in everything further glorified by going the extra length to see past a human's shell and create something otherworldly. We get the chance to emotionally open up like we wish we could in the real world. Music is probably the most effective tool to draw motivation from, and writers all over AuthorTube have been accepting the use of personalized playlists to go on in the background when it comes to painting certain scenarios in their stories. The term muse comes from Greek mythology as the 9 daughters of Zeus and Mnemosyne. The muses were said to be gifted and alluring, entertaining humans by grace through artistic efforts in song, dance, and poetry. Each one had different attributes and strengths in different arts. The idea to muse about subjects we learn about is the idea of passing through the hoops of conventional society and acceptance of conformity to think outside the box, so to speak. Wondering about a person can lead us to muse, as you might say, about their background, about their feelings, or about the roads they've traveled or yet to travel and what they might become. Let it be known that to simply muse about a mystery is different than knowing about the mystery, because knowledge here becomes the death of the muse. Once we learn about a character's backstory in a movie, we are less inspired to make our own prequel. Once we know about a person's background, it can hinder our imaginings for a different course, one we can create. As one artist who considers a woman to be as beautiful as a goddess might lose interest in any portrayal of his creation once he finds out she's wearing 7 layers of makeup. Muses not only provide us with inspiration, but motivate us to experience a fresher perspective on something. You could say the basis for the muse is founded on philosophical thinking, the willingness to reject the idea of a handbook for life and recognize we all come from different walks and ways and should focus more on coming to terms with ourselves and our own while we wonder about the mysteries of life.
I swear you're different and this time I'm gonna try. We can start fresh if you just let go of the past, yeah. I don't get it 'cause I don't judge it like that.
So why do we need the muse? The muse allows us to bend our ideas and those that have been forced upon us or accepted. To muse is to wonder, to be curious, to ask questions. It helps us bring our ideas to life. It motivates us to make the differences we secretly feel bursting from within, and it gives us the strength to boldly stand out when everyone else is telling us to stand down. The feelings we might have, no matter how strong, have more of a resemblance to that of infatuation or of obsession, rather than true love and desire for the thing itself. Once we create our own, grow with our own, is when infatuation might be replaced with something closer to true passion. A muse doesn't just give us creative freedoms, but allows us to entertain ideas, to be curious and to wonder, to allow ourselves to succumb to the mysteries of life without worrying about the necessity to prove everything. Art is more than just entertainment. It strengthens the spiritual connection we have to the intangible and the unknown. It gives us wisdom and understanding, and it ties our feelings and connection to a piece that help us to better learn to empathize with something we may not understand. It humbles us and then fills us with glowing pride when we feel we've accomplished something we may not be able to explain. Art changes us. Art not only heightens our experiences in life, but it makes things more vibrant. We feel ourselves changing and growing and learning the more we take in. It can help us to empathize with characters in our stories, and it can make our stories come alive as we muse about circumstances beyond our own experience. By allowing ourselves to ask questions is to muse, and to get that inspiration, we must first find a source.
Welcome to the room where you hiding. I'd invite you in to stay, but I'm trying to get out of here. The windows see my pain, they feel it. The curtains know my name, they scream it. Get out of here. With the memories, I guess I want your ghost as my company.
I've expressed in my Julie and Julia video how vastly inspired I am through AMVs or animated music videos. It started out with typical anime, but slowly progressed to more theatrical MEPs, using video games I loved or wanted to play and movies I had seen or heard of. I think this is an underrated art form in and of itself. Creators of these AMVs spend hundreds of hours to put together works of perfected artistic expression with use of different characters and transformative images while keeping with the beat, tempo, and rhythm of a song. The first one I watched was EVS Guilty Crown with the song Stay Close by Fireflight. Not only did I find the merging images and pounding music a combination for sheer perfection, but the biggest draw was how the characters, scenes, and music all played a part in reminding and relating to elements within a story I had started at the time. Before I knew it, I was mentally copy and pasting my characters as portrayed in the video for a more enhanced experience. I probably watched that video at least 300 times, and after about the first 200, I had finished my novel in 3 months. That's a record even for me. But I couldn't have done it without the help of that AMV. Now, videos not only help me to relate my characters and stories to what I'm watching on screen, but the MEPs also are helping me to inspire other stories and characters to come on down the line. In my Shattered series, the reason that I decided to extend it from a trilogy to a 7-part series was after I watched Cheryl Blossom and Billy combine together as a ship, backed up by the song The Hills by The Weeknd. Now, this powerful duo inspired me to make my antagonist Deirdre a little more complex, choosing to give her a complicated background in order to create her the way that she is, rather than let the reader just accept that's the way it is. This is when I realized I should really back off fanfiction writers. Not only do I use doing the exact same thing through the AMVs that I watch, but worse. Inspiration for my characters and future works are taken from the transformative pieces that are already taken from original artists, spliced and pieced to create something new. Even the music, not belonging to the original creator, but the companies, producers, singers, and lyricists involved, is used to inspire these MEPs and the playlists with which other writers have backed up their scenes to play in their head before expressly placed on paper. Art inspires art, and without it, we would have a much harder time finding our muse. So how do you find your muse? Where do you draw inspiration? Is it music? Personal experience? What motivates you to write? A muse will motivate us even in our darkest moments, our most trying times, and through that blank page, to continue through the struggle to seek out an end. The frustrating disciplines we have to take might be made easier when we are feeling inspired. We always assume an artist first starts with a blank canvas, or a page, or a piece of sheet music, but in order to make the efforts of pulling out said physical tools, has already proven the manifestation of a feeling. We've already felt motivated enough to put forth the effort to go to the lengths of getting started. So what motivated us? The artist had to have first had an idea.